Right, then let's move on to another story. This one, again, we've spoken quite a lot, Paul, even me and yourself or the other guys, about like transfers, and the two names that keep coming, actually both play for Bournemouth, are Milos Kerkez and 90M Huijsen. Reporting today again from the iPaper saying Liverpool are interested in both, and I think the report on Kerkez first was that Liverpool have actually made contact with his representatives and with Bournemouth. No bids are in yet, but again, I'll put it to you, like, usually when stories are this about the same player keep coming up, and then they follow a certain timeline. I mean, if surely there is some fire, because there's a lot of smoke if there's not.
Yeah, no, definitely, and he ticks so many boxes, doesn't he? I think we've said this before. From as a player's point of view, 21 years of age, been really good this season for a Bournemouth team who I think the 10th at the moment, but they're only 4 points off the top 5, and that sort of shows you how congested it is down there. A couple of good results could really catapult them towards the European places. He's played every game for them. No one's played more than him. 29 appearances this season for Bournemouth. 6 assists. I've seen him. I mean, we all saw the one against Tottenham, didn't we? That was world class, genuinely world class. The way he just turned the defence into attack and put it on. Not so much a plate, but it was an incredible pass. A couple of goals in there as well. The
Newcastle goal in particular, when he just ran, he was a bit like just ran after the length of the pitch and blam, like John Arne Reese or back in the day, that kind of thing.
So he's very good. He's aggressive. He gets stuck in. He gets up and down. He's very technically gifted as well. So as a player, there's lots to like. Big upside, big future ahead of him.
The report, sorry, Paul, interesting is that actually he prefers move to Liverpool as well. A lot of teams are interested in him, but apparently he favours move to Liverpool. I think Real Madrid were name checked at one point. I think City, Arsenal. Does this maybe, and it kind of ties in, obviously I know Andy Robertson's been speaking while he's on international duty about his future, and he's not ready to quite give it up yet, and we keep getting linked to every single left back along those lines. But if you are a left back looking at a move to a big club, and you're thinking, where am I going to get a game? With all due respect to Andy Robertson, who's an absolute Liverpool legend, but you're probably thinking, well, he is on in his 30s. Is his race run a little bit? Maybe that's my best place to go, because I've got a very good chance of usurping him and getting that starting job. Where if you go to Arsenal, have not long signed Calafiori, and I've got Lewis Skelly.
Arsenal love left backs.
Mikel Arteta loves a defender. City, I've got Gvardiol, who plays there a lot. So from a purely point of view, I'm going to get a game. You can see what actually Liverpool are a big club, probably going to be Premier League champions, will be playing Champions League footy, and that's one of the teams, the big teams, who I might actually be able to get a game for. Yeah,
and you look at the styles as well of the teams you mentioned there. City with Guardiola, it feels like Pep Guardiola prefers more of a left-sided centre-back in his left-back role.
Even midfielders like Fabian Delph as well. He's never gone for that anti-Robbo style winger,
orthodox up and down fullback. Nathan Ake's played there a lot. He tends to play with almost the 4 centre backs across the front, doesn't he? Yeah. Across the back rather. So that could Kerkez play in that role? I'm not too sure. And then you look at the project at Liverpool. New manager coming in, looks like they're going to be Premier League champions. It's a huge future that is going on at Anfield. So why would he not want to be part of it when you think that his mates there from Hungary, Szoboszlai, they are good friends. And Robertson is 10 years his senior. Robertson was only 31 last week, but he always comes across as a little bit older, I think, because he's got a little bit of an old head on his shoulders.
And if you're 31, haven't played like 6-7 years for Jurgen Klopp, you can probably add a few more. The amount of running that fella's done for us. He's done 2 extra years worth of playing footy. The amount of matches Liverpool play as well. Some Premier League teams probably play 40 matches a season. Andy Robertson's been playing 50s and 60s constantly. It is going to catch up to you probably a little bit earlier. We've seen that. Sadio Mane and Jordan Henderson. James Milner was almost the exception to the rule. Fabinho. It felt like Liverpool, I don't know, playing for Liverpool almost shortened a little bit. Your peak was there, and then by the time you're 30, 31, again, there's a few exceptions like Mohamed Salah, who's a freak, but we have seen this before. The drop-offs come a little bit earlier than perhaps for others.
Yeah, and he's played about 620 career games now, which is a lot of football, particularly for a left-back whose game is based around explosive bursts up and down the flank. Yeah. So, I do tend to agree with him to an extent. I think his downfall has been exaggerated a little bit. There's been a few mistimed tackles and a few glaring incidents, but the penalty against Southampton, for example, was probably a little bit harsh, maybe outside the box.
The red card was harsh.
The red card, yeah. I could see why that was given. But the penalty against Real Madrid. You know, these are sort of individual errors that are magnified a little bit, aren't they, when you play for a team like Liverpool. So I do agree with him to an extent. His form has picked up. He's been better in recent weeks and months. But, like we say, he has played a lot of football, a lot of mileage on the tank generally. And Liverpool are always looking for what's next. So there's so much around the Kerkez link which makes sense. And then that's before you get to the sort of technicalities of it in terms of Richie Hughes knowing the specifics of his contract that he signed in 2023. The agent, Fali Ramadani, is Federico Chiesa's agent, who worked with Richie Hughes on that deal in the summer. So, yeah, there's a lot about it which ticks a lot of boxes. And, you know, like you say, no smoke without fire. And I do think Liverpool will be at the table for him this summer.
What about the fee? £40 million for a left back. Like, again, it's the going rate. I understand. Liverpool haven't really ever spent loads on full-backs historically. Now, listen, granted, they got lucky because they developed, I say lucky, they developed one of the greatest we've ever seen. So that saves you a lot of money. Andy Robbo was a bargain, you know, that kind of thing. But, like, I think, you know, Glenn Johnson was the highest, and that was I mean, it was a long time
2009,
a long time ago before we signed that. So the idea of spending £40 million on a fullback, that is the modern world, but it is completely out the norm for the routes that Liverpool usually go down.
It is, yeah, but you have to move with the times. You know, Liverpool did that with Alisson Becker.
Yep.
When they signed him in 2018 for £65 million, that was a world record fee briefly for a goalkeeper, wasn't it? And the most he paid for one before them was Simon Mignolet, about £9 million. So, you know, when these changes happen, you do have to sort of move with them if you do want to be one of the biggest clubs in the world. So I don't think Liverpool would balk at that asking price. And now I've got like a sort of vague rule of thumb that anyone under 40 million probably is not going to be a top player. And that's not exactly a hard and fast rule, but that's just something that I sort of roughly stick with. So yeah, it's about the going rate for what Liverpool pay for players. Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, you know, the last sort of few years has been around that sort of fee, hasn't it? Alexis McAllister, suppose like a little bit higher up, but that was a release clause that sort of had to be paid. So, you know, it's what Liverpool pay for players who go into the first team. Yeah.
Moving on to Huijsen, then obviously his teammate centre-back. He's only 19, obviously Spanish now. He was brought through the Dutch system, but now he's switched allegiances to Spain. The same reporting from the iPaper is £50 million release clause, and Liverpool have indicated that they're willing to spend that £50 million for a 19 turning 20-year-old centre-half. Paul, like that, maybe. Like Liverpool were in the Lenny Yoro conversations up until they weren't again. But but the price was an issue there. Is it different for Huijsen because he's shown he can play Premier League football, but £50 million for a teenage / 20-year-old full centre half rather? Again, is that Liverpool moving away from a norm because if it doesn't feel like something we haven't done and they've been really willing to do.
Yeah, I mean, we know Liverpool tend to look to bring in first teamers who've played around about 150, 175 senior career games. I'm not too sure how many Kerkez has played, and Huijsen has played. I mean, say he's played 25 times for Bournemouth this season, then he's probably only had about 40, maybe. But Liverpool are aware of him. I had a conversation with someone last year who was sort of explaining how Liverpool might use his fee going from Juventus to Bournemouth as a evaluation for Sepp van den Berg. So they are aware of what he's all about, his qualities, his potential. And he's certainly had a really good season, hasn't he, at Bournemouth? And, if they get into Europe, that's an incredible achievement for a team who've got probably the lowest revenues in the Premier League, owing to the ground, which holds about 12,000, is it, or something like that, the Vitality. So he's been a big success for them, but still only a young player. You just wonder whether big clubs would be prepared to take the plunge now.
He's played 42 senior games, so he obviously had this one game for Juventus, 14 for Roma, and then 27 for
I mean, that's a big outlay for someone with, not a lot of mileage on the clock, such inexperience. And we do mention Lenny Yoro, and there's certainly interest there. The price was a sticking point. Real Madrid's interest and United's was a sticking point as well. I think Liverpool sort of felt that might have been able to be whittled down because of a contract situation that was there. I think he was going into his last year.
United could pay to that, didn't he?
Yeah.
But there is a release clause here, so it's worth mentioning. It would be £50 million. You're probably not getting Huijsen for less than that.
Yeah, and the existence of a release clause makes it a lot easier to get the deal done. It means you can do it relatively quickly. you don't have to sort of haggle and wrangle and talk for days on end and weeks on end. Liverpool have proven that with Szoboszlai, really. So, if that is in existence, I think it'll be one that they'll look at. But I just wonder whether this summer might be a bit too soon for him.
It's because I think everyone's in agreement on the centre-half situation. Liverpool have 4 of them, but actually with Gomez in particular, he's had injury issues. He was another one who was potentially going to leave last year. Konate, unfortunately, has had injury issues. Van Dijk's contract, I mean, there's no guarantee. He's only got 9 games left before we know what his future is. Like, Liverpool will be looking at centre-backs. They'd be stupid not to. In a world where Virgil stays, put it this way, and maybe Gomez leaves, having a young centre-half, like a really young one, I don't know if that's the way to go, because then what's Gerald Kwanzaa? It feels like you'd probably want someone a bit more experienced. If you're going to sign a Huijsen, which again, absolutely, I think he's a good player, it probably means it will be someone like a Kwanzaa leaving, and I just don't think Liverpool are in a world yet where they're ready to give up on Gerald Kwanzaa. They've only just given him a new contract, so do you want to go from having the experienced Virgil, the prime years of Konate, and then 2 relative young, inexperienced lads? That balance doesn't quite feel right. Gomez is the perfect example. Decent age, loads of experience. It's just that he's just had too many injuries. I feel like that kind of profile of defender, albeit one who can stay fitter, would be more in keeping of in terms of a squad building exercise.
So they need what you're saying is they need a first team centre back, someone who's capable of just going in immediately and slotting in the way sort of Konate did. What was it, 4 years ago? And okay, he was young at the time.
It would be Joe Gomez, but stays fit. That's what Liverpool probably wants.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you, to be honest. It does feel like Huijsen would be sort of a project, albeit at a quite a high price point, really. So, I mean, I agree with you. I do think that they are looking like they will need a centre-back now as well on top of everything else. Gomez is the sort of unknown quantity in that factor, isn't he? Could have left in the summer. I'm sure he'll want to play more regularly, and he was up until that injury, wasn't he? He was having a good season, filling in for Konate, but sadly pulls up injured and, might not play again this season, really, in a meaningful game at least. So, I think that is an area of the pitch for Liverpool to focus at, but it's probably not the biggest focus, is it? It feels like there's a lot of leaks springing up for Liverpool at the moment, and it's strange to say, given the season they've had, the squad they've got, but it does feel like quite a little bit of change is coming. Yeah,
it absolutely does. It's weird to think of as well. So I mean, one fan, I think Bournemouth maybe looking at £90 million from Liverpool. Liverpool have done this before.
The new Southampton.
That was literally their neighbours. Maybe Richard Hughes was just doing them a solid. Like, lads, we'll box it up. But obviously, they don't want to lose 2 of their best players or better players. But Liverpool have been shown before. Like, if you're a club who produces players who play a certain way, we'll happily go back to that well a couple of times. Like, it wouldn't be I don't think it would be the biggest shock of all time if Liverpool went to Bournemouth and took 1, 2, 3 players, because they are the style of play, the fact that you can probably get players out of Bournemouth for a relatively okay fee. They're not really like Brighton who can afford to hike the prices up. It wouldn't be the strangest possibility, I suppose.
No, and if they sold a player for 40 million, 50 million, that is absolutely huge for Bournemouth. That could be reinvested in a couple of players. Obviously, they signed Evan Nilsson, was it, in the summer for 40 million? I think that was a club record buy for them. And
that was the Dom Solanke money, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, it does seem to be a little bit of a model there where they polish up a player, move them on, and then reinvest it. And, they've got probably 3, 4 or 5 there from this season who could be in the final line for bigger clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Kerkez at the list. I'm with you. He would be the one you're thinking. There's a lot of noise around him. It's him and loads of forwards at the moment, isn't it? When you're reading if you're reading tea leaves or whispers or what's going on, it's been Kerkez as the left back and then some type of forward, 1, 2, or God knows how many.
Yeah, I mean, Robertson spoke, didn't he? He said, I think we've been linked with every left back in the world, and I think that was his way of sort of disarming the speculation. Because they probably have been linked with a few left backs over the course of the season, but in the last few weeks and months, it is so much just sort of funneled into one in Milos Kerkez, and it does seem like he is firmly in the crosshairs now.
Yeah, absolutely. See how that one goes over the next couple of weeks and months, I suppose.